How's it going? Welcome back, my wise ones, to a fantastic video today. I'm just very excited to be talking about Fable yet again. It's been a while and I love talking about Fable as I am a long time fan of this series. I grew up with the Fable games, and in fact Fable 1 was my first kind of introduction to RPGs, even before, you know, I played Fallout or Skyrim, which is very loosely an RPG, but you get my point. And that game was special because it would reflect your actions in game. You know, if you wanted to be stronger, your body would actually become like goddamn Arnold Schwarzenegger. Or if you wanted to be a magical wizard, like a short king like myself, that is just has so much knowledge about philosophy and magic and the arcane, then, you know, your character would reflect that. The same with tattoos, and of course the morality system that would actually shape your character's appearance of how evil they would look and how good or holy or virtuous they would look. Now, the new Fable game is not doing this, okay?
What?
It's gone. It's all gone. Poof.
Now, I made a video a while back called Why I'm Worried About Fable, the new Fable game, and recently we just finally got a massive gameplay showcase, a massive dump of gameplay, a massive showcase of the new Fable gameplay has recently been shown, and this has given most of us a solid look at what this game actually is going for, how similar it is to the previous Fable games. And I've got to say, I'm still leaning towards I'm worried about the new Fable game. But mostly it's this. I'm worried that the new Fable reboot doesn't understand Fable, doesn't understand the core magic, the themes that made it so special. Now, there are many things in this new gameplay that I am excited about, and the world looking absolutely beautiful. The art style, I'm kind of happy with what they went for. It kind of feels a little bit like Hogwarts Legacy, where it's trying to go for a semi-realistic approach. Now, personally, I would have preferred if they kept with the original Fable art style, which is much more exaggerated, cartoonish. The character models reflect that, the world reflects that. But having it a little bit more grounded, I'm not completely against it. And it does still have the same aesthetic, but it does seem to be leaning more into purely that kind of, you know, mystical fantasy look. And the older Fable games weren't exactly that. It was a little bit more rugged, down to earth, you know, kind of like the Shire.
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
So today, the reason I want to make this video is to mainly complain. Now, it's not to say that I'm not excited for this game, and I definitely am. I'm going to be playing this, of course, as soon as it comes out. So if you do love Fable content or philosophical looks at video games, a deeper analysis, you know, I'm not some robot here, you know, you'll have to accept my personality and deal with it, so subscribe. Also, I just want to say a huge thank you to for 30,000 subscribers. We have now passed 30k, and that's absolutely insane. It means absolutely everything to me. You know, I wouldn't be doing this without the people watching, the returning, you know, 20k to 30k audience. I really appreciate you, much more than, you know, getting crazy views on my videos. The fact that the Wise Ones is a real thing now, that I'm not just yapping to myself like a madman, it really does mean everything to me, and I hope we are truly building something special here on this channel. So don't be afraid to share your opinions down below, but, you know, I'm going to be talking about a lot of personal biases in this video. I'm not going to do an objective breakdown of how this game looks technically amazing and eating up a AAA slop. The biggest thing that I don't like about this is how it's tackling morality, how it's tackling Fable's system of morality.
But morality, I don't see it. I don't acknowledge it, Q.
And don't forget to like the video, because I'm a YouTube shill and I need likes to survive on this goddamn platform. I've been grinding for 5 years and it's not easy, but I really do appreciate the Wise Ones and the community now being where it is. Yeah, just supporting the channel, you know, checking out the music on Spotify, just commenting, liking the videos, seeing the same people returning. That just makes me so happy to see the same comments. So grab yourself a nice beverage, relax, get cozy. We're gonna break down the themes of Fable, what made it so special. Now, I won't say that the new Fable game looks bad or this new Fable game sucks or anything like that. I'm not, super negative. I'm not super skeptical about it. I think Xbox knows how big this franchise was and can be. That's why it's basically being sold on a name alone, because let's face it, none of the original people are working on this Fable game. It's a completely brand new studio, and they've mostly worked on racing games before, so they had to put a lot of faith into this development team to make it actually what it is. But what it does remind me a lot is Hogwarts Legacy. That also came from, kind of an unknown studio before tackling an RPG. And I think for the most part, it is going to be a proper RPG from what we have seen. There's going to be a lot of choices, a lot of branching dialogue, even if the voice acting is a little bit weird because they're using a lot of modern British slang. And I would know, as I am British, using chuffed and stuff like that in a Fable game. I'm not sure it really fits, but they did have those kind of vibes in the first Fable game as well, with, like a hippie stereotype talking about magic mushrooms, but it wasn't so on the nose. It was more for individual jokes. Now it seems like everyone is kind of talking in this somewhat modern British slang, which feels a little bit weird, but the choices and consequences so far look interesting, not completely binary. Kill the pig, save the pig, we saw that, but there were different ways to negotiate around it, like bribing the person, fighting the person, killing the person, maybe, I don't know. So it does look like it is going for a somewhat actual RPG system, which I like, because if it wasn't a proper RPG, then that would really suck, but it does seem to be doing that. But there are things that I don't like about the gameplay. Most of all, it's the combat, then, of course, it's the evil and good morality system that seems to be basically gone, because morality is subjective. What?
What?
It's gone. It's all gone.
You're right. Morality is subjective. I personally love eating baby fetuses because it just makes me feel so powerful. But personally, I think I'm a good person, so, morality is subjective, okay? Also messes with the gameplay very badly, in my opinion, because what they have confirmed after doing even more deep dive on this after the gameplay is each settlement, each town is going to have their own little bubble, a magical little bubble that surrounds each place. That means your word of mouth for some reason doesn't spread. Letters don't exist in the Fable universe. Nothing goes from one place to the other. So if you're a murdering psychopath in one village, you will not be a murdering psychopath or be known as someone dangerous in the next town over, which makes no fucking sense. So those are the main things that I have a problem with the new Fable reboot, and why I think the Fable reboot doesn't truly understand Fable, what it was going for, Peter's original ideas. And yes, you can say he's a, somewhat of a con man, an overseller, but he was visionary. He did have, big dreams, and he still made amazing games, I think, because I still love the Fable games, even though they weren't exactly what he promised. He was very consistent around his idea of morality and actions having consequences, but the whole point of Fable is your actions having consequences, and it looks like they do, but it's localized, so how is that much of a consequence if you can just move over or pay off your bounty and then it all goes back to what it was? Now, what I do like so far from what I have seen is how nuanced it is with your reputation, but it seems like the Fable developers are either completely retired, but it seems like the new Fable developers are very low IQ, which doesn't surprise me because it is the gaming industry, modern gaming slop, if you ask me, who work on most games today. And of course I don't understand basic, psychology or philosophy. To them, of course, morality is subjective. Plato, of course, and Socrates and Aristotle had no idea what they were talking about. And it's all just, your own world. Everyone lives in their own magical world. This is the breakdown of objective reality, and this is the thing I'm trying to combat on this channel. We have to have a unified space shared metaphysical ideas. And I know this is a Fable game, and let's not get too deep into this, but this whole gameplay mechanic is what the whole series is known for, and they're changing that. And to me, it just makes it less interesting, and also it highlights modern day thinking. And I don't want to be reminded of how terrible modern day critical thinking has become, but here it is in my Fable game. So as morality is not objective, even though that makes no fucking sense, because personally, what I believe, and what Plato talked about, is morality is, a metaphysical construct, but we bring it into emergent reality, okay? Through these ideas, manifesting them. The idea of love, the idea of virtue, we reach towards these ideas and try and manifest them as best as we possibly can in this human form, but they only exist purely in emergent reality, which is what I mean. If you don't know what that means, is basically that is the shared space that we humans agree reality exists on. For example, money, it doesn't fucking mean anything. It's a piece of paper, but we give it meaning, therefore it exists in emergent reality. That's kind of a simple breakdown of something existing, a shared reality that we can all kind of agree on, okay? And morality, I think, comes from nature, comes from the universe, God, whatever you want to call it. We instinctively know what is good, what is bad. To some degree, of course, it changes with society, changes with time, but most humans know that bashing a baby with a goddamn rock, is probably not a good thing, because it goes against our biological nature to do so, unless if you're, got some kind of dysfunction, some kind of mutation within nature. But anyway, I don't want to get too deep down the rabbit hole, but the whole point of the original Fable games was this idea of deontology manifested into gameplay design. That's why it was so cool. Even back when I was a kid, I didn't understand any of this shit, obviously. But as I research these things, and I encourage you to as well, to get into philosophy and this way of thinking, it made me appreciate the gameplays. It made me appreciate gameplay mechanics and games like Fable that actually try and tackle morality. That's why I love morality-based systems in video games. And it was quite simple, every action that you did had a consequence to it, had a morality tied to it. And that fits the themes of deontology, as I've discussed in my other videos, so well, because basically it's not like the ends justifying the means, it's more about the individual action. That action itself has a morality consequence, and that was what Fable was all about. Eating a tiny chicken would instantly give you bad karma, but saving someone would instantly give you good karma, and that would actually manifest and change your character. Very simple, very binary. There were choices in the story as well. Do an evil choice, raid the farm, or save the farm. Simple stuff like that, but it manifested so nicely into the gameplay design and made the world feel reactive. Characters would react to your character, or they would try and chase you down just so they could catch a glimpse of your majestic, heroic self, because you were known for all of these good deeds. But now, with the new Fable game, what it is, it's a localized morality magical system, which means other people don't know about your deeds, which makes no fucking sense, but that's what they're going for. And also, every person reacts differently because morality is subjective. That's what they say.
Poof.
They seem to misunderstand basic human knowledge, okay? Morality is not subjective. Your perception of morality is subjective. That's why everyone has different opinions. And the way they treat the morality and, like the little things that pop up, like you did a virtuous act, people know you as shrewd. Being shrewd isn't a morality fucking trait. It's just a trait, a personality trait. And they seem to think that reflects, like a moral thing, which makes no fucking sense. So they're mixing normal reputation system with morality and calling that a subjective morality experience. And of course, everyone has different opinions on, one thing, but they fail to misunderstand the key point, and therefore that's going to mess with the gameplay. That's the big issue I have with this Fable reboot, and that's mostly what I focused on with the gameplay. I wanted to be excited about the other stuff, and maybe I'm special, okay? Most people probably do not care about this kind of thing. Most of you will probably think I'm crazy, but as someone who deeply cares about this kind of thing, and especially art and storytelling, and having your morality, be shaped and manifested within a video game, that's a very special thing. Not many art can do that, where you get to actually reflect your own choices, and the game and the art reflects back to you those choices and consequences. That is why I love RPGs. That is why I love gaming, is, interacting with this media. And having these developers not understand that concept of what made Fable so good to begin with messes with the game, if you ask me. Whew, okay, that feels good. Now, I'm not sure if most people are going to care about this video. I just had to do it for myself, okay? Because as a longtime Fable fan, seeing, the new Fable game saying everything is subjective, morality is subjective, it just ground my gears, especially as someone who tries to look at video games on a deeper level. That's what this whole channel is built around. Of course, it grinds me the wrong way, and it's just a sad reflection of modern society as well, and modern game thinking. And if you don't think the developers are going to judge you for some things, that's what I'm worried about. I'm hoping it's not going to be like that. I hope it's not going to be a Dragon Age situation where they try and teach you some moral lesson, because if morality is subjective, you could, do something that other people perceive as bad, but you think it's good. So then why are you given, a bad morality system? It makes no fucking sense. Do you not see how stupid that is? If I'm a fucking murdering madman and I think murdering is a good thing, why does that not reflect for my character that I'm a good person or something like that? It just depends on how people see you, how other people see, the perception of morality, which is true in real life. Yes, of course that's true, but it doesn't change the thing that morality itself is objective, at least in my opinion. And other people might not think that. They might actually think it's subjective, and if you think that's the case, then I just, good for you, but you're wrong. Basically, philosophy, all of the great philosophers mostly would disagree with that statement, and I would disagree with it heavily as well. You just have to understand basic biology to some degree. But it's not so much about that, but it's just also how it impacts the gameplay, because just having your choices only be localized makes no sense. Having characters like you for different traits, that's quite interesting. I really love that system, the nuanced take on that. But again, they're mixing morality with personality traits. Being virtuous, that's, morality. My definition of virtue, how I define it in my solism philosophy, or solist philosopher. If you want to subscribe to that, then just subscribe to the channel, become a wise one, and look into my solism playlist, which is a philosophy I'm building. But virtue is wisdom, courage, and rationality, and these are tools that the universe has given us, and we must use them to, interact and reflect our nature and live in accordance with nature. The Stoics would say something similar, okay? So having virtuous as a thing, when you do a virtuous action, makes sense as a morality trait. But being rich, for example, that does not reflect morality. So I don't know why they're including that in the same system where it interacts with different characters. You understand what I'm saying, right? There should be a reputation-based system, there should be a morality system, good or bad. Just think about how Fallout handles karma, and then the faction-based reputation system. That's what makes Fallout New Vegas so goddamn good. Why did they not do something similar? And then having it all localized makes it just feel like a goddamn video game, instead of this amazing thing that Fable was, where the whole world would interact with you and react to your choices. It made everything matter. That was the point. You can't just get away with, doing something bad and then everyone else would treat you like the hero. That is not fun, and it makes, replaying the game quite boring. There are systems to change that, like donating or sacrificing people to the religions in the game, but who knows if the Temple of Avo or the Temple of Scorn, whatever it was in the Fable original games, even exists anymore, because the developers think morality is subjective. So maybe religion doesn't even exist in Fable anymore. I don't know.
What?
It's gone. It's all gone.
Over here you can see, just underneath what I'm talking about, they've got things like killer, shrewd, rich, entrepreneur, charming, criminal. They said, I built a complex ecosystem in this Silverbrook area, but if I go over here, it suddenly all doesn't matter, which doesn't really scream Fable to me. And also, being an entrepreneur doesn't reflect morality. That's a personality trait. If you're ambitious or whatever, you know, some of these can be, you know, tied to virtue, which can then be tied to morality, you know, something good, something bad. But a lot of these, you know, don't reflect morality at all, but they're kind of bundling them all together. And I would have liked to see personality traits be different compared to your moral standing in the game, but they're not doing that. And then this is going to change, you know, how quests are given. But this is a big thing because it changes how gameplay will be in the actual end game. Because I was hoping for different quests that give you, you know, a very, you know, like do something bad, do something good kind of outcome towards them. But now these choices that you make within these quests, because it looks like it does exist to some degree, are going to be so nuanced that does it even matter? That's the point. So yeah, you know, if there's going to be people reacting to you differently depending on, you know, your richness or if you're an entrepreneur, that's fine. But then having the good or bad outcomes all be subjective just messes with the gameplay, and it will make quests feel like they have less consequence, not that they have more consequence. And I don't think they truly understood what Fable was going for. And that couldn't be more clear just based on the fact that your character in Fable, the new Fable game now, doesn't change. It doesn't get more and more, you know, decrepit and decayed, and people get more scared of you based on your appearance. You will actually manifest horns and have this dark energy about you, not just with the clothes that you wear, but your actual person. That doesn't happen anymore. You know, you don't actually change your bodily features. It does look like the characters are well designed. There's different, you know, character designs and stuff like that, which is nice. But the whole fun of Fable was seeing your character morph into this person that you became through your actions. That doesn't exist anymore. And then even the choices that you make don't seem to matter. It's going to be like Hogwarts Legacy. So that's what I'm worried about. That's why I think this new Fable game doesn't understand morality. But like I said, I really do like what they're going for the most part. Just those are the things that concern me most. And also combat, the fact that it doesn't look very violent. It doesn't seem to have that goofy sense of humor that Fable had. You know, Fable was always very crude. But it would balance that with very dark moments as well. So it's kind of dark humor mixed with very crude British humor. It seems like now it's going for more of that kind of cringy, you know, wink wink, everything's a little bit like not serious, like modern day writing shit that I can't stand, kind of Marvel-esque, you know what I mean? But it does look like they are still balancing that out with more darker themes, so I just hope that is the case. You know, seeing Jack of Blades returning, stuff like that makes me excited. The simulation aspect is the thing that really makes me excited for the new Fable game. They've, you know, completely done a great job on that. From what I saw from the gameplay, you know, buying houses, owning businesses, owning pubs, recruiting people, having them work for you. You know, it's all very good, but at the same time, people seem to forget this already existed, but they're kind of just bringing it back. You could already marry, you could already have children, you could already have multiple wives, and in the older Fable games, you could actually take them on actual dates. It wouldn't just be a cutscene. So in some ways, it's a step down. In some ways, it's a polished version of what already existed. I didn't really see anything new in that regard. I'm glad that it exists, and in a much more detailed universe. I'm sure what will be improved is the questing, the open world nature, the emergent gameplay, the random events that you come across in the open world. Demon doors are back, but again, how the hell are demon doors going to work if morality is subjective? Because a lot of that was tied to morality in the other games, you know, perform an action of great evil in front of them or something like that. So there's a lot of things here that I'm excited about the Fable game, but sadly, it feels like they are kind of missing some of the core themes that made the Fable game so good to begin with. And I just wanted to gush about it and talk about it today. Like I said, I'm not here to hate on the game, but I do think it's having a little bit of an identity crisis. And I was worried. I really did think Fable would come back. I was really just, you know, hopeful. And, you know, it just, yeah, this is modern gaming for you. You can't really just be excited for anything anymore because they're going to change things around. At the end of the day, it is just the name that kind of is still the original Fable game. There are good things in this. Like I said, I'm not here to hate on the game. I'm excited for it. As an RPG, it looks good. But as a Fable game, you know, it's kind of the same old trope. It's the same old story time and time again. Like Fallout 76, is it a good game? Yes. Is it a good Fallout game? No. This could be a similar thing. So thank you for listening to this madman ramble. I do appreciate it. I'll be seeing you and catch you in the next video. Peace out.